All right, it is Sunday, the weekend of October 22nd, and welcome to the Trader Hub Weekly Market Review. Let's go ahead and look at the price action for the indexes this week. A rough week for the markets. Let's go ahead and start with the NQ. Um, a lot of the price action we saw this week was significant downward pressure. This is kind of what we were talking about after seeing last week's close, where we kind of tapped up here, that being a good short, right? So we're just putting in these lower highs on both daily and the weekly chart. So it still looks like we will probably end up seeing lower. The key thing to me that really happened this week is that we kind of violently closed below this important 15,000 level on the NQ. That to me signals we're at least going to retest these lows. More likely, what I think is going to happen is we're going to put in a new lower low, somewhere around 14,000. 350-ish, 400-ish, something like that. Now, what I think could happen going forward is we could potentially see some corrective price action. Like if we come up from here, if we end up hitting there, I could see it coming back up around here, 14,800, even retesting 15,000 again. But ultimately, the trend is clearly lower highs, so I think that we're likely to make an even lower low going forward. Could be way down here at 13,600 if that continues to be bad. But I think that before that happens, we need to just kind of see what happens at 14,350, 400-ish. So kind of look out for that going forward. Do you have any thoughts on that, Bryce?
No, that looks about right to me. That we expect lower lows because we've got lower highs, and until that changes, look for downward movement on NQ.
Yeah, and I think the last check mark in the bull case is that these equal lows have been holding up. Technically, until we break those, we could come back higher. But we've touched it so many times. I think a lot of this buy-side liquidity essentially has been taken out. Again, that could produce a little bit of a bounce before lower, but I think that we're going to see this break and go to the downside. So that's that for the NQ. ES, very similar. Price, do you have any other thoughts on this? Anything different you see? Kind of looks the same to me.
Yeah, it's almost exactly the same chart, just different numbers.
Yeah.
The one thing that is different is it looks a little bit more confident down here on the hold because of all these highs that could produce this leg down and a hold right in that area. Price really came up and found this as resistance for quite a long time. Let's see, how long is that?
Yeah, what is that, like almost a year of time right there?
Yeah.
Oh, that spot, yeah.
At least half a year.
Yeah, half a year. But I had really kind of been flirting with that area for about a year, a little bit over a year, during the 22 downtrend and then the 23 uptrend, trying to kind of break from that level. So, yeah, that's a significant area. I could see it going all the way down to 4,100, but we'll have to see what happens at 42 first.
Absolutely.
Cool. And then the RTY, we kind of predicted that this is likely going to make a new low, and that's exactly what happened. We had this breakthrough at 1,732. Now we're moving all the way down to potentially hitting this 1,680 level. Personally, I actually think we're likely to make a new low. We've tried to break out up here so many times and have never been able to do it. And we've seen this touch twice now. The amount of volume and sell side pressure makes me think that this is going to break through, potentially come down to 1622, or even maybe somewhere within this range, around 1622 to maybe, 1561. So that'd be a pretty significant drawdown. But if we look back, we do have a lot of consolidation and price action in this range, so it does make sense that this would be the next area, key area of interest on this name. Do you see anything differently?
Just like the exact same thing. This area here was resistance for so long and then produced this massive leg up. So that's why we're looking for it to have at least a bounce there and potentially a trend start on the higher time frame. One thing is these closes up here kind of makes me think that it's possible this could just be a wick down and then a hold and higher, but we do expect lower lows. So that would be really interesting if we got a wick down on the monthly, but a hold up above. That would really point to being able to get back to longing and going up the other direction.
Yeah, I actually think that scenario is quite likely. All this really is, if we take a look at all the time here, all the price action there, and the same thing on the other half, like this line essentially is kind of bisecting those two ranges, if you want to think about it that way. So really all this is just a reversion to the mean, essentially, is what's occurring here. So I would expect this to be a nice little fair value area, for a nice move back to the highs again. So I agree with you. This is like a perfect area for like a quick dip in here and then snagging up a ton of liquidity from that move and then moving back to the highs. So I could definitely see that playing out. It might consolidate here for a little while, but I think this is going to be a pretty major area of interest. So we'll have to see how long price spends in that area. But for now, we think it's going to move down toward that area, so there's still some more pain for the small caps to come. Let's go ahead and look at gold. Why don't you cover gold? I think you've been pretty on it with this, and an interesting week for gold, to be sure.
Yeah, gold came right down to our 1820-ish level. It missed the line there by a little bit, but if memory serves, we did say 1820 area, and if you're going to be a stickler on a couple bucks on a huge move, then it came right down and moved right back up. So that is, look at this daily. It just kept chugging. I think we both expect higher on gold. We could see a little bit of cool off, but definitely higher. It could hold 1975 there. That looks like a good area to hold on the daily to continue up. But I wouldn't expect a huge drawdown on this right now in this move. It looks higher to me.
Yeah, I see that as this is just essentially slurping up all this liquidity down here, knocking out, if this was pretty clear support, right? So everyone in these trades for higher, putting all their stops somewhere in this range, this is just trying to snag up all that liquidity, and then we get a huge, with all that liquidity, a giant move up. And the thing that was really important about this move to me is it closed above a ton of these major levels that we're, kind of flirting with here during this entire consolidation. It just ripped right through those. And then we reached essentially 2,000, and we get a little bit of a cool off on that rally temporarily, but that makes total sense to me. Like you said, I think 1974 is like a really great long, and then if it dipped down below to say 1942, that's a great add as well. And you could take those positions with a stop again, kind of below those range of the previous consolidation, and you're targeting not either all-time high or a new all-time high. And I'm pretty confident. Personally speaking, not financial advice, but just my thoughts, I think that we're definitely going to all-time high or new all-time highs on this move for sure. So definitely looking to get long on gold.
I just wanted to highlight real quick while you're talking there, this area that broke and produced this downward movement, and we came up and tested that. So just like you said, maybe some pullback, but continue higher.
Yep, certainly seems that way. Let's go ahead and look at the Dow. Again, all these major index charts look very similar. This is, the one that hasn't quite reached where the lows were yet, but again, very strong breakdown move here. I would expect that we're going to test these lows. We could hold up there and kind of come back a little bit and cool off again, but what I really think is going to happen is we're likely going to see something maybe more in the 32,000s, so 32,800 there is kind of the next area that I personally see on the chart. If we look at the weekly, see if anything is a little different. No, that kind of looks pretty perfect to me, 32,800. So that's kind of where I think we're going, especially this week. All the indexes ended up, their weekly candles, closing at the lows. That tells me there's more selling pressure to come. You see anything differently than I do?
Nope, basically the exact same thing. This is the best chart that could hold those lows that we've covered so far. But that's not the most confident hold I've ever seen
No.
on a chart.
Yeah, it is furthest away from making like a new lower low, but still doesn't look like great price action. We see these strong downward moves and only corrective price action moving back up. So just looks overwhelmingly bearish to me still. Why don't you go ahead and cover oil for us? We've been pretty spot on with oil.
Yeah, it came right down to our level a couple weeks ago. And let's look at the daily here. It's now closing up above in the upper ranges here. It is interesting to note that it didn't quite close this box, but it is up in the area that it tried to previously hold, which produced the down leg. So that's a very interesting spot. That's why the box is there. We expect this to come back up and hold and produce higher. I would say it would take out these highs for sure.
That's pretty much what I see as well. And I think when we saw this come back, I had kind of marked out this 85 level, and just because that ended up being sort of the high of this particular higher high on the leg up there. So I thought maybe that would be an area where it would at least try to kind of flirt with. You saw it kind of close above, come back to 82, and then take on that liquidity move back higher. So getting this nice little sort of corrective move here and holding up above there and seeing clearly these wicks using that as support to kind of push past into the 90s here or the high 80s makes sense. I think what's going to happen is we could see maybe slightly more consolidation in this range, in this box we've marked, and then I agree. I think we're going to see back to the highs again of this move sooner rather than later. And I personally expect that to just, if these highs break, we're going straight to 100 in a hurry. And I think that could happen real quick. Especially with the price action and speed of these moves in commodities. Oil could easily hit 100 by the end of the year. I think that's a real possibility. Let's go ahead and look at the dollar. Maybe one of the more boring charts this week. Just a bunch of consolidation. So just a consolidation on this range between like 106.6 and maybe that low of 106 there. Still kind of looks like, people say maybe this is the start of potentially a reversal. If we look at the 4-hour, though, again, very similar, like very high corrective moves to the upside and only, high momentum moves to the upside and only corrective moves to the downside. This tells me that there's more buying interest than shorting interest. So I think this level to break to get back to the high here at 106.8, I think that we're going to see this broken in the coming weeks, and then we'll be free to go back to our kind of major dollar target at 109 up here, 109.6, somewhere in there, 109. You see anything differently than I do?
I do like these wicks here. Most traders, when they see this, they'd see these lower lows and get scared of longing, but it really looks like it's just liquidity grabbing and the wicks are getting larger, so yeah, they're buying it up more and more. I think we could see this low here hold and produce higher highs.
I think the same, but until we get a definitive move, we'll just have to watch the dollar. I will say that while we are talking about that, this 105.8-ish area here, I think, we've already put in a lower, technically this is a lower low. That's kind of the last area that has to hold before this move toward the upside that we're talking about is, temporarily disrupted. I could see us, if we lose that, we'll probably go to 104.6.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't like the low, like if it came down here to this low, 105.6. I don't like an equal low look here. I think you really want to see this range hold up. So something to watch out for from the downside perspective. It's always possible the price could change on us, and that 105.8 is going to be the area to watch if we do get more downward pressure. Let's go ahead and look at the banks. And this was an interesting week for the banks. So price only TA had marked out this price range, and interestingly, on Tuesday of this week, we had a wick all the way up to the box here. The top of the box, 42.91. Top of that candle, 42.92. So that's another indication that we know that the ranges that we're looking at are correct. And then, most importantly, closing below that range on that day. So couldn't even hold the move into that range. that signals failure, and that's why we were producing it what now definitively is a lower low look on the regional bank ETF. So next area to hold is going to be 38.50, and if that doesn't hold, first of all, this is a lower low look on both the daily and the weekly charts. The only one that looks constructive still is the monthly chart. So if that doesn't hold at 38.50, we could go all the way down to the 30s, like low 30s again. So that's kind of what I see. Do you see anything differently?
Nope, it kind of just played out exactly what we were expecting. So, the only thing to find out here in the coming days and weeks is where that low is going to be before the uptrend can continue.
Yeah, well, I think if it loses that, it's going to be a bloodbath. So it really needs to hold up there. We talked about the importance of 42.50 needing to be broken above to keep that uptrend alive, and hasn't done that yet. So we'll just have to see what happens at 38.50. But anyway, I think that is the review covered. Thanks for tuning in to the Trader Hub Weekly Market Review. If you like this kind of content, sub to the Hub and consider joining our Trader Hub Discord community server. You can find it using our link in the description. See you next week.